Welcome to Fabric Monday. Today we'll talk about access methods. What are the access methods we have from Power BI to the Fabric Lakehouse or Data Warehouse? The purpose of this video is to identify these access methods and discover how to use them. We will not get so deep to talk a lot about performance. We will not care about performance at this moment. What are the available access methods with Fabric? We have the import access methods. This is usual for Power BI. We have the DirectQuery access method. Once again, useful for Power BI. And we have the DirectLake. The DirectLake is the great news about access methods in relation to Fabric. Let's talk about the difference between import and DirectQuery. We have a source of data and we have Power BI trying to query this source of data, whatever the source is. And we have a lot of data on the source. If we decide to use import mode, all the data will be moved to the Power BI side. The query will be executed on the Power BI side. On the DirectQuery, on the other hand, it's the query who goes to the source and it's executed on the source of the data using the resources of the source of the data. This is the DirectQuery access method. But this is not the only difference. Let's talk a bit more about the difference between DirectQuery and import. DirectQuery process on the source side, the import mode process on the Power BI side. And DirectQuery offers a limited set of transformations. Why? Because it's limited by the language of the source. For example, if the source is a SQL server, it's limited by SQL. Not all Power Query transformations can be easily translated to SQL. So we don't have all the Power Query transformations available to us when using DirectQuery. When we use import, on the other hand, we have all Power Query transformations available to us because the transformations will be done on the Power BI side. Using DirectQuery, we have no need of refresh because the data is coming directly from the source, directly from the server. There is no need to refresh the data set. But when we use import, the data was brought to the Power BI side and we need to schedule regular refresh of this data. Some people say that DirectQuery enables us to use real-time between quotes, because it would only be real-time if you were really creating a model directly to production. And of course you are not doing this because you know how long this is. So this real time is in relation to the source of the data, which can be a lakehouse, a data warehouse, whatever source of the data. When the data appears on the source of the data, you have it visible in Power BI. DirectQuery is slower because it depends on the network, depends on the transfer, the resources of the source of the data, so it ends up being slower than import mode. Import is faster because all the data is kept in memory, so all the processing happens in memory, making import faster than DirectQuery. And DirectQuery usually is used for bigger amounts of data. When we have huge amounts of data and we don't want to move out that amount to the Power BI side, we use DirectQuery. When we have small amounts of data that will perform better if brought to Power BI memory, so we use import. The big news, the DirectLake. What's the difference between the DirectLake to the import and DirectQuery. If you take a closer look on this slide, you notice that both import and DirectQuery have a middleman. There is a middleman translating the query to the storage. This middleman causes a difference in performance. The DirectLake goes directly to the OneLake storage without any middleman. This makes the DirectLake the best in relation to the performance and in relation to both. It has a better performance than the DirectQuery. The performance of the DirectLake is comparable with the performance of the import. They will have similar results in relation to the performance. However, the DirectLake is reading directly from the source, so it has the real-time effect of DirectQuery. Some people say that the DirectLake is like a mix of both, has the best features of each one, DirectQuery and import. So let's see an example about how to create a DirectLake dataset. How do we create a DirectLake dataset? We have here a workspace Lakehouse demo which has a Lakehouse in Microsoft Fabric. Every time we create a Lakehouse in Microsoft Fabric, we have a default dataset already created. This default dataset is already linked to the Lakehouse and using the DirectLake connection. So one method to use DirectLake is to rely on this default dataset. We now call it semantic model. We can rely on this semantic model for this purpose. In fact, we do this relying on the default semantic model without noticing. Let's see an example here in Power BI. I'll create a new report. And I use the OneLake Data Hub to connect to a Lakehouse. And I can choose my Lakehouse demo. The connect has two options. I will talk more about these two options, but the point is, if I use the first option, it seems that I'm connecting to the Lakehouse. But in fact, what is happening is that I'm making a live connection to the full dataset linked to the Lakehouse. So I'm using the default dataset without even noticing that I'm really using the default dataset. If the connection is already established, how can I notice that I'm using DirectLake? Well, first, here at the bottom of the Power BI window, we'll check that we have a live connection to one Power BI dataset. Knowing that this dataset is a dataset using DirectLake to the Lakehouse, we'll identify that we are using DirectLake. We can also check the data source settings, and it appears as a connection to our Lakehouse. It allows us to choose the connection to our Lakehouse. In this example, we are using a DirectLake connection. It's interesting to notice what happens when we publish this report from this connector. I have here another workspace called Lake Demo Report that I will use exactly to publish some reports to exemplify these scenarios. What happens when we publish a report with one specific kind of connection? In this case, I will publish the report with the DirectLake connection. So let's publish it to Power BI. Lake Demo Reports. Select. Usually, when we publish a report, two objects are created, the report and the dataset of the report. But in this case, this report is using a live connection to another dataset. What this means? This means that once I refresh this page, I can see the report, but there is no dataset for this publishing because the report is connected live to the default dataset of the Lakehouse, performing a DirectLake connection. There is another illustration that we are using a DirectLake connection, which we can notice by testing the performance using the performance analyzer. As I mentioned before, I don't care about the numbers which will appear here because there are many levels of cache involved. But I refresh the visuals. What's important for our example is the sequence of tasks executed when I refreshed the visual. A DirectQuery was executed and the visual display. There was no DirectQuery execution. If I were using DirectQuery, I would see a DirectQuery execution. I'm not using DirectQuery. I see no DirectQuery execution when testing the sequence of tasks to refresh our visuals. But one question remains. If I'm using DirectLake, do I need always to use the default semantic model? Do I need always to be linked to this default semantic model? Well, some may see some advantage to be linked to this semantic model because we can create a default preview model that everyone will consume, containing measures, containing the relationships and so on. This all will be present on this semantic model. But do I need always to be linked to this one to use DirectLake? No, you don't. But you can create a DirectLake dataset from Power BI Desktop. To create a DirectLake dataset, you need to use the Lakehouse. On the Lakehouse, you have the option New Semantic Model. By using this option, New Semantic Model, you create a new dataset using DirectLake. A dataset different than the default dataset. I can choose the tables which I will use. My example use only two tables, use only fact, sale and dimension city. I can restrict my choices to these two tables and select one specific workspace to contain this dataset. Let's call it Sales City Dataset. Confirm. And that's it. My new dataset is created. I have now the Sales City dataset. Okay, this Sales City dataset is inside the Lakehouse demo semantic workspace. Let's use this Sales City dataset and see an example how we will be really using DirectLake. On Power BI, I'll choose Get Data, Power BI Datasets, and I'll use my Sales CTDS. Connect. So we can notice here the connection live to Sales CTDS on our workspace. If I check data source settings, it has the same effect as before. It shows me options related to the OneLake data hub because it's showing now the DirectLake dataset in the OneLake data hub. I will create very quickly a report on this Power BI desk. And that's it. We have a report with sales by state. Let's publish this report to see the effect of publishing it. Publish it to Power BI. Save. I will save the report and choose the Lake Demo report. Select. And that's it. The report is published. Let's see the result on the workspace. Lake Demo report. And here is Sales City Live. And the behavior is the same as before. There is no data set being published, only the report, because the connector is live to a data set and data set is using DirectLake. The other example to prove that this data set is also using DirectLake is the optimize. The optimize and check the steps while refreshing the visual. No DirectQuery on this step. This report is using DirectLake. In this way, we just discovered that we can make a DirectLake connection from Power BI desktop to the full dataset created by the Lakehouse or the Data House. Or we can create a DirectLake dataset on the Power BI portal, but we can't create a DirectLake dataset directly on Power BI desktop. This is not possible. Let's talk now about DirectQuery and some variations of the usage of DirectQuery. DirectQuery variation. DirectQuery with a proxy is one of the options of DirectQuery. How this happens? What happens is that the DirectLake has many limitations, many situations that it doesn't support. One of the limitations is that it allows only a live connection to one source, to one single source. You can't make a composite model merging information from multiple sources. Once you do that, it's not DirectLake anymore. It becomes DirectQuery. And you'll be creating a composite dataset which will act as a proxy in this scenario. A proxy to your Lakehouse. That's what we can call a DirectQuery with a proxy. DirectQuery made to the dataset, a dataset that you create. And from the dataset you create, you are reaching the full dataset or another custom DirectLake dataset. But with one dataset reaching another. It's not the report reaching the DirectLake dataset. It's one dataset reaching another. Or another variation of DirectQuery is DirectQuery made directly to the SQL endpoint of the Lakehouse. We can make the DirectQuery to the SQL endpoint instead of connecting to the Lakehouse. So we can choose to connect to the Lakehouse or choose to connect to the SQL endpoint. Connecting to the SQL endpoint, DirectQuery is one of the options of the storage methods. We make a DirectQuery to the SQL endpoint. These are two of the variations of DirectQuery that we can use with Microsoft Fabric. Take a look on this window. This window where we make the connection to the Lakehouse. There is an important choice on this window. If we choose the first connect option, which is also the default when we click the button, we have the option to be using DirectLake, or we have the option to create a data set that will be a composite data set and be using a direct query with a proxy to the DirectLake dataset. On the other hand, if we choose the connect to SQL endpoint, DirectLake is not possible. We can't use DirectLake connecting to the SQL endpoint. In this case, we can use direct query to the SQL endpoint or import. We can use import when connecting to the SQL endpoint. We can't use import when connecting directly to the Lakehouse. Let's see some example. We have here a report using DirectLake. Why would I transform this to a direct query using a proxy? One of the main reasons to do that is when I need to get data from different sources. Using DirectLake, I can't make a composite model. I can't get all the sources and compose into the dataset. Let's try. I can try to click on Get Data, Excel Workbook, and we see this message. A direct query connection is required to add additional sources to this report. In this case, I would need to add a local model. This means create a local data set while creating this report. In this case, I would be using DirectQuery with a proxy, one data set connecting to another data set. It will not be anymore the report directly to the data set which use DirectLake. It will be one data set to another data set. Let's see this happening. To illustrate how this can be done, I could have clicked on that button, or I can come to Model and click on the button Make Change to this model. This button on the model creates a local data set, transforming this in a composite model, in a direct query with a proxy solution. I have here another report which does this. Lakehouse with a local data set. This other report is very similar, basically the same report, but it's using a composite model, a local data set. It's not using DirectLake. How can we notice this difference? How do we notice this? First, at the bottom of Power BI window, we notice the storage mode DirectQuery is not live anymore. It's DirectQuery. This means that there is a local data set. I can check the data source settings. It points DirectQuery to, it says analysis services, which is Power BI, DirectQuery to the Power BI environment, to a data set in the Power BI environment. And to complete the example, I can make the performance test. I can make the refresh visual, and what's important here on the refresh visual is the sequence of steps. When I'm using DirectLake, I don't have this direct query step. It's DEX query and visual display. When I'm using DirectQuery, the DirectQuery step appears, taking more time, more processing time from the performance of the report. Besides all this, we also have a difference when publishing this report. If I publish this report, the result will be different. Let's do that. Let's publish it. Lake demo reports. Select. Let's see the workspace. I have my Lakehouse local TS, and a semantic model was created, Lakehouse local TS semantic model. This semantic model is making a direct query to the Lakehouse default dataset. What if we would like to use DirectQuery to SQL instead of DirectQuery with a proxy? That's possible as well. DirectQuery to the SQL endpoint of the Lakehouse. We can do that. I can make a connection to the Lakehouse, select the demo lake, but instead of using the connect, I'll connect to SQL endpoint. And here I can select my tables, dimension, city, and fact sale, for example, and click in load. And the interesting part is the next question to make to us. Would we like to make a direct query to SQL or use an import mode? The import mode can only be done through the SQL endpoint. So I can choose if I make a direct query to SQL or an import mode when I select the SQL endpoint during the connection. Let's see a summary of all these scenarios. DirectLake. DirectLake is when we connect to the Lakehouse, making a live connection. I'll be using the default data set created automatically to gather the Lakehouse. Or I can create a new data set only in the portal and connect to this new data set. On a live connection, I will also be using DirectLake. DirectQuery with a proxy. On a DirectLake connection, we choose to create a local dataset to create a composite model. In this case, we'll be using DirectQuery with a proxy. We will have one dataset making a direct query to another dataset which connects with DirectLake. DirectQuery with SQL endpoint. When we connecting, we choose the SQL endpoint and we have a new window asking us if we would like to make import or direct query. We have the option to choose direct query with SQL, or we have the option to choose import when using the SQL endpoint. Thank you very much for watching. See you next week.